Well, good morning from Europe. It's Friday, April 10th. The Sahara will be with you with the short market update. We're going to check what's going on in the market, political, geopolitical, economic, and financial markets. Let's review. Market focus still is on Iran war. While we are in the third day of ceasefire, still everyone waiting to see what will happen in tomorrow's talks, which is going to be held in Islamabad, the Pakistan's capital. We know that Islamabad is total. They closed the center, the city, uh, for Friday and Thursday. The government generally closed the town. Everything is closed. The holiday somehow. To be able to control the security situation, as we will have very important guest there, Mr. J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States. This is going to be the highest level of negotiation between Iranian and American since Iranian revolutions, Islamic revolution held back in 1979. That's why it's going to be a very, very important. So let's see what's going to happen there. Whether the Iranian they will accept the Americans 15 points offer, or American will accept the Iranian 10 points or something between. That's very important. That's why the market generally watches that very cautiously. We can see this cautious and slightly fear in the prices. The even thought the last night usually generally we saw the Wall Street closing slightly higher with almost 0.6% in the main indices, but still and still so far now in Asian market the stocks are positive, but still we now that gold price due to slightly higher yields is still down. We know that the oil price is still up. WTI price is trading around $98.40 because despite unlike and despite the ceasefire agreement, the Strait of Hormuz is still open only for Iranian or Iranian related cargo ships. And so far, yesterday, only 7 ships could pass the Strait of Hormuz, while it was more than 100. Usually, it was around 140 ships passing the strait before war starts. So there are more ships moving towards the Strait of Hormuz, but still only 7 ships could pass the Strait of Hormuz. That's why these notations until Monday will be very important until, because I don't think that the Americans can accept the Strait of Hormuz to be open only for Iranian-related ships. While at the same time, we had a report that Iranian taking crypto and even $1, just like in $1 crypto for each each brand each barrels oil passing the Strait of Hormuz. So all this, and Donald Trump said that even if it's correct, they should stop it. And yes, it's not okay with that. They should start. They should open the Hormuz Strait 100% as it was before the war. Anyhow, these tensions, just like still high. That's why we didn't see. That's why we are still seeing the just like shortage in the energy market and oil prices higher rates for the oil prices. So that's what's going on there. The US dollar index also, because of this higher risks in the market, even thought the VIX is moved under 20, but US dollar is still up by more than 0.1%, trading around 98.94, 95. That's what we can see for dollar index. At the same time, the rates, because of this cautious in the markets, the rates are somehow stable. The 10 years rates are stable and waiting for any updates that we can get from these negotiations, from these geopolitical tensions. As mentioned, the Asian markets so far were positive. Mostly in Asia, the markets had a positive reaction, mostly to the AI related news in the stocks. tech and AI related news and stocks, we had a positive news from them, especially from the some Chinese companies, from the Taiwan's semiconductor producers, and also some new negotiations and some agreements between the Meta and other stocks. Generally, the AI related businesses, they were positive, and that's why they somehow helped the Asian stocks, especially in Japan and South Korea and Kospi, which both are very related to the stock, to the AI and tech related stocks. Nikkei gaining by more than 1.8%, almost the same for the Kospi. Other stocks also, they're positive generally. I haven't thought it maybe even slightly later. Sensex or Nifty 50 and Nifty 50 in India. It sounds like for it's like we said Nifty 50. Yeah, but it's the real name. The 50 stocks in a Nifty or a Sensex in India. It's also gaining by more than 1%. The same in the Singapore, Malaysia, and other Asian stocks. Generally, the market are, as mentioned, the positive, but with very strong cautious. We could see this cautious in South Korea's central bank meeting as well. Earlier today, we had a South Korean meeting. Korean Central Bank held the rates at 2.5%, mentioning that there are very high risk of inflation, and if they see the inflation higher, they may change their idea about the interest rates path. So holding the interest rate at 2.5% was in line with the market expectations, but the statement was much more hawkish than market expected, and that's supposed to be read as a hawkish meeting in Korea. After yesterday update, we had many other economic data and updates to watch as well. So, especially in United States. Before going to the United States, I have to mention that yesterday, mostly from other economies, we had the Thomson Reuters surveys, and mostly they showed that the sentiment, consumer sentiments, are slightly lower in most developed and developing economies. Going towards the inflation numbers, yesterday from starting from the Mexico, in Mexico, we saw the CPI increasing by almost 9% on a monthly basis in March, much more than 0.5% that we had even thought. It is slightly less than expected, but still, it's the jumping from previous month. The core, the CPI inflation in the annual scale also increased by 4.6%. The core inflation also on the monthly basis increased by almost 0.4%, slightly lower than previous months. PPI increased, producer price index for the March increased by 2.8%. It's almost just like more than twice that we had the previous month. In February, it was 1.1%. Now we can see PPI at 2.8% higher. Inflation prices for sure support for sure. It's like affecting the producer prices and the costs. Core PPI, core inflation also, core consumer inflation also on the monthly base increased by 4.45%. That's almost the same as previous months. But the market was watching the USPC price index for the first quarter and for February. Generally, what we can see here in the fourth quarter and for the first in February, the number generally shows that PC price index was unchanged for the February around 2.8%, while real income, so the consumer income fell by 0.1%, and spending increased only 0.4%. Even though the prices market didn't watch the prices too much because, as mentioned, the prices will be updated today. Those numbers of the inflations are related to the period of the before Iran war. That's why maybe the inflation numbers will be could have the less effect. But let's say if we didn't have the war and this ongoing geopolitical tensions with the numbers that we had so far yesterday, those are the delayed numbers that supposed to be published 2 weeks ago. With the numbers that we had yesterday, we could see, okay, the inflation is somehow under control, spending is low, GDP is not that good as good as it's expected in the fourth quarter GDP. revised lower to 0.5% on the quarterly growth. And those numbers generally telling us that, okay, maybe the central bank in the United States, Federal Reserve, can go towards rate cut. That's what we could understand with the numbers if we didn't have the war. But since the war started and the prices are totally changed, just like reprice, everything is repriced, and now we have totally different view. I have to mention about the labor market. Yesterday we had an amazing numbers. While the initial jobless claims slightly increased to 219,000, higher than expected, higher than previous months. Yeah, it is still, but still much lower than at the usual number that we have around 250. We had around 250,000. It's much more lower than this. And for week average also still slow, 209,500, slightly more than 208,000 that we had, still showing very good numbers in the labor market. But the real surprise was on surprise that we had. It was on the continuing claims. Continuing claims lowered by more than 36 or 38,000 to 1,794,000 applications for unemployment benefits. That was 1,832,000 previous week, and market was expecting to see the numbers around 1,840,000. So it's like 38,000 less than previous week, showing that the period between being the period of being unemployed is decreasing faster. So now the market is counting, maybe the market now is kind of accepting that number, probably that accepting that number as a positive number. Let's see what's gonna happen in next NFP numbers. But generally, with the lowering unemployment rate to 4.3%, and with these numbers, we can expect the unemployment rate, if the things goes same as how it is, unemployment rate will be around the same 4.3%, 4.2%, maybe even. As mentioned earlier today, we had a South Korean Central Bank meeting, and rates unchanged at 2.5%, but we had PPI in South Korea as well, increasing by 2.6% on the annual base. Monthly also, it's increased by 0.8%, showing that the higher energy prices increasing the inflation numbers as well. In China also, we had a CPI numbers. Still for the for almost after 3 years, we have the inflations in China positive, staying at 1% on the annual scale, lower than slightly from 1.3% that we had in February, but on the monthly base, it's fell again by 0.7%. Anyhow, the annual CPI is still positive, while we have the PPI also positive, increasing by 0.5% on the March, generally showing that the inflation escalations and also the higher energy prices in one hand, on the other hand, better consumer demand somehow just like lowering the inflation concerns that we had, and now we can see inflation slightly increasing. That can be the positive for Chinese market, as they had a very big problem with the disinflation so far in the past years. In Germany, inflation increased by 1.1% for the March, confirmed the primary data on the annual base. Also, it's increased by 2.7% on the March, showing that generally this inflation, just like these numbers of how they can affect the consumer prices in European economies. Later today, we will have the inflation number from Brazil. We will have the labor market data, which is expected in inflation in Brazil, also expected to increase slightly. Labor market data in Canada, and unemployment rate expected to increase slightly to 6.8%. And inflation numbers in Russia also should be watched, while we are expecting to see 0.5% monthly and 5.8% annual for this consumer inflation. Anyhow, the market today will focus on United States numbers, where we will have the consumer price index, CPI, which is expected to increase by 1% on the monthly base to jumps, which means that annual base On the annual scale, the inflation should jump from 2.4% to 3.4%, while the core inflation with 0.3% monthly growth is expected to increase slightly from 2.5% to 2.7%. Just higher numbers, for sure, they're related to the ongoing geopolitical tensions and energy prices. However, we shouldn't forget that we will have the Michigan consumer sentiment as well. Consumer Michigan inflation expectations expected the consumers shows that the higher expected inflation, while for the 1 year, but for the 5 years, I don't think that is going to change any big number. But consumer sentiment supposed to ease to 51.6 from previous 53.3. And this is while we will have the factory orders, we will have the uh, durable goods orders, and we have to watch those numbers as well. They will give us better and bigger idea of what's going on. However, market will focus mostly on the energy, sorry, on the inflation numbers. With the bigger picture, looking at the bigger picture right now here, we can say that still the market is expecting with the slightly higher energy prices, with the higher, it's like maybe the market has higher energy prices and higher expected for the energy. So that's will lead the generally inflation expectations higher. So if that happens, means that the market will be more cautious, especially with the ongoing geopolitical tensions. Still, we are waiting to see slightly cautious, slightly positive, but very cautious markets, at least until Monday, that we can have a better and brighter idea and picture from ongoing geopolitical tensions and talks between Iranian and American in Islamabad, Pakistan. Be careful about your trade. Take care about your risk. That's what happened in the market. Hope it was useful for you. Talk to you on Monday. Have a good day. Bye bye.